you know our friend Mr. Hare, Jackson Hinkle. If Hare could cure the world and save it, his hair would do it. So he's been doing fantastic work on Ukraine war. He's been doing really great work and telling the truth and blowing up the propaganda against the establishment, which doesn't sit well with Google, which is in bed with the CIA, the FBI, the military-industrial complex, which owns YouTube. So he's been telling the truth, and they've been pretending like he's been breaking their terms of service, saying that, well, here's what they sent him. They said, during a recent review, our team of policy specialists carefully looked over the videos you've uploaded to your channel, The Dump with Jackson Hinkle. We found that a significant portion of your channel is not in line with our YouTube partner program policies. But they won't tell you what video, what it is.
Never.
As of today, your channel is not eligible to monetize. Yeah, what you're doing is you're going against the military-industrial complex, the establishment figures, and, well, we've got to try to suppress you before you grow, because he was growing very fast. He went from 0 to over 100,000 subscribers like that. Why? Because he was providing a service that the mainstream news media isn't providing, and neither is anyone else. He's telling the truth about what's happening with the Ukraine war. So that's what they did. And then he tweeted this out. He says, YouTube has permanently demonetized my channel because I am critical of Biden's foreign policy decisions. Please support my work. And there's his link. Jackson Hinkle Locals. He does that. And he has a Patreon. Then he has a Give, Send, Go. I don't know what that is. I've never even heard of that.
That replaces the GoFundMe. Give, Send, Go.
Yeah.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. They're a little Christian-y, right-winger, like you can hit a prayer button and stuff, but they were the guys who came on in after GoFundMe had stolen and seized all the money from the truckers in Canada. That's where Give, Send, Go came into play. So I told Jackson that when I spoke to him on the phone the day after he got the PayPal and the GoFundMe. I'm like, Jackson, go set up a Give, Send, Go right away. Get that rolling. Get over on Rockfin more. Start drawing people in there. They're going to come for you completely and take your whole head off. And we know what this is like. We're on 19 months of this. So, I told him about this. I'm like, Jackson, just get this shit, get it ready. And sure enough, a week and a half later, he gets the same dreadful letter, which is so vague because they don't ever want to set a precedent because they can't tell you exactly why they demonetize you because that would be too harmful for them in the court of law. So they make it very vague and act like it's an algorithm, but that algorithm was written by a person.
Black and the Empire says, after directions from the security state, YouTube has reviewed his videos and seen his channel grow to the point where they can no longer monetize his challenging the lies necessary for our government to continue their corruption. Wow, well said. Aaron Mate, award-winning independent journalist who debunked Russiagate, said Jackson has built a large following as a vocal critic of the U.S. proxy war in Ukraine. This move not only penalizes him for dissenting, but sends a chilling message to others who challenge or think about challenging the war state line. And that's why you don't think that other people have real doubts about our COVID policy. They're afraid to talk about them. I'm talking about other YouTubers who are in the space that we all occupy. They're afraid. That's why no one does any videos about them, because they're afraid of stuff like this happening, and you can't almost blame them. And same thing with what's going on with Syria, or what's going on with Venezuela when it was going on, or what's going on in Ukraine. You can't call Nazis Nazis, stuff like that. But you can call truckers Nazis all day long, and that's not hate speech. Here's what our good friend Caitlin Johnstone says. She says, people aren't grasping the significance of the fact that Silicon Valley is now shutting down content creators, not because they allegedly harm the public good, but because they disagree with the United States government about a war. Ukraine censorship is a wildly unprecedented escalation, and it is. Imagine, what they would have been doing down the Iraq war. They would be censoring anybody who said they didn't have weapons of mass destruction. They would be censored. You'd be censored. You'd be called a conspiracy theorist. So people don't. By the way, he's also gotten another strike. So go ahead, Fiorella.
No, I was just going to say this started with, you could go back to the election. That's when we started getting strikes, when we started questioning the legitimacy of the elections. First Bernie Sanders, and of course the 2020 elections, which I'm not even going to talk about because, again, I don't want to get you in trouble. So, but like when we started questioning that, and then of course early on in 2020 when we started questioning COVID, that's when all of this started, and January 6th as well. Also, of course, as you recall, the Hunter Biden story, that people got taken off Twitter. So this has been a long time coming. And now, because the Ukraine-Russia situation, I think, is the next sort of, PSYOP. And by PSYOP, I mean like the next sort of thing that they're trying to manipulate people to believe a certain narrative, just like they've done in previous times. People are finally starting to see through it, and they're pushing back more against it. So now they're going after just everybody down the line. People are getting strikes for old videos that are 2 years old. And so that just signals that, okay, now like too many of you know too much. And if you have under like 200,000 subscribers, like Pasta says all the time, you're primed to just get knocked out. And even channels that are tiny, that don't have a lot of subscribers, maybe a couple thousand, they don't want them to grow, because what they're seeing is people like you and others who have a huge following are absolutely getting these more popular, because people want to hear that. You could talk about The Rising, right? And see every time Kim Iverson's on and she's challenging the COVID narrative or challenging the Russia, anti-Russia narrative, the views are much higher. And so they can't help that. They can't help that people want content that is truthful, that isn't formulaic like CNN and MSNBC. This is why the CNN Plus thing failed. So they're seeing like the rise of independent media, and they're seeing also people see through this bullshit. So they have to shut it down. And now they're not going to let it grow at any given point. And even Max Blumenthal, Gray Zone, just got a video taken down as well that we found out earlier today. I didn't even know about it. So
yeah, people like Farron Franzak, Fair and Balanced. She got removed. She got demonetized the other day. She used to work for Fiorella's outlet for quite some time. Roar Media got taken down. Our friends over at Slow News Day for years, just in the penalty box. So this is all a group of people. And it used to be, these other things you can talk about, but that was always the problem. For me, I always link it back to Julian Assange. They were never going after Julian Assange. They were always coming after us. They were just using Julian to get to us. So yeah, back in the days, people, it's elections. You can't talk elections. That's just the one thing. But then they moved on to COVID. Oh, it's just elections and COVID. Now you can't talk about that. Now it's what? Foreign policy. So it's going to just keep going and going and going, and it's never going to stop until we make it stop.
Well, it's okay to question the 2016 election till the cows come home, and you can even blame it on another country. You could say a coup was committed. You could say it wasn't Donald Trump isn't a legitimate president, which is what Hillary Clinton actually said. You can say all that stuff about the 2016 election, but you can't say that about the 2020 election. It just makes me, it's just curious to me. I wonder why that is.
Because you can't question the ruling class, right? Like if you ever question the ruling class, that's what it's about. I mean, they were going to have what was the board that they were going to put Nina Jankowicz on? When she was coming out completely saying, as a true statement that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation.
So she was herself, of course, spreading disinformation, which is why we have free speech. And the antidote to bad speech is better speech. It's not censorship. But what I am trying to explain to people in my live act is that the government isn't doing, the Democrats nor the Republicans are going to make your life materially better unless you make $500,000 a year or more. They're not going to make your life materially better. So what they do is they have to do censorship, and they have to keep everybody down from telling the truth about their scams that we see. People know that $54 billion sent to Ukraine was a scam. People know that because they look out their window and they see people living under every bridge and they can't afford their own medicine. And we're sending $54 billion to another country for what? And we're paying higher gas prices. I guess we're paying higher gas prices because it'll mean a likelier chance of a nuclear war, I guess. So I guess it's worth it. But here's what Glenn Greenwald says about this Jackson Hinkle. He says, Google and Facebook are trying hard to degrade the internet from its early promise. its early promise was it's going to be an unprecedented tool of liberation, and everybody's going to have a voice. It's turning it into one of the most repressive weapons ruling class power centers ever had. Beyond left-right, Jackson Hinkle is, above all, an anti-establishment critic. And that's why they're coming for him. From the start of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Jackson has used his growing YouTube show to question and dissent from the orthodoxies of NATO, CIA, and their corporate media servants. Only free speech platforms, not ones that censor for these ends, deserve your support. Here's one more. The YouTube team of policy specialists had ruled that Jackson Hinkle is not in line with their security state policies. The odd thing is that they don't block his videos, which they would if they could prove they contain disinformation. They just demonetize them. Well, they're also going back 2 years in his catalog and finding stuff, and they're now striking him for old videos. That doesn't seem fair, does it? This is not about fairness or anything. Glenn Greenwald says, this is what Chomsky said about censorship. Here's what he says. Chomsky continued, of course it was provoked, meaning the war in Ukraine. That's what Chomsky's saying. Otherwise, they wouldn't refer to it all the time as an unprovoked invasion. That's so clever. By now, censorship in the United States has reached such a level beyond anything in my lifetime, such a level that you are not permitted to read what the Russian position even is. That's how bad it's gotten. Go ahead.
RT. Hello. RT is completely off YouTube in the United States because they showed the Russian side, and I'm here right now, and as somebody that works for RT, I have full say as to what I want to say and what I don't want to say. I'm not being forced to say anything, and yet still it gets painted as a Russian state affiliated media, and it gets painted as Russian misinformation and disinformation and whatever else they want to put a label on it. I mean, let me take the opportunity to also promote the fact that we as content creators, whether you're a journalist, a comedian, whatever you are, need to diversify your content. You need to go on Rockfin. You need to realize that a lot of really great stuff on Ukraine and Russia is being covered outside of YouTube. I mean, it's being covered on Telegram. It's being covered by independent journalists that are on the ground, that are there, and they're literally like in the ground zone. It's being covered by Rumble and Odyssey because these people can't put their content on Twitter or they get taken down any other day. The Last American Vagabond, Vanessa Beeley, all just got taken down. It's several are restricted on Twitter and stuff. So this is it. What are we going to do? That's the question. What are we going to do about it?
We're not going to do anything about it. I mean, I'm on Rumble. I'm on Rockfin. That's all I can do, and I can do videos like this, push back against it. I can, support Julian Assange, point out the hypocrisy of the establishment, saying they're for free speech and journalism while they're torturing and killing the greatest journalists of our lifetime. So here, when Chomsky said that the war in Ukraine was provoked, that we provoked the invasion, this is what one of these lackeys for this security state, Chris York, he says, he retweets that, what I just read to you. He retweets it and said, despite Putin himself stating it's a war of imperial conquest, Noam Chomsky continues to claim Russia's invasion of Ukraine was provoked by the West, says a guy who doesn't know dip, or if he does, even worse, because he's a willing tool of empire. And that's what I said. I go, Chomsky makes true statement about Ukraine war, hacks for empire immediately attack him. Imagine being this much of a dupe for imperialism while calling yourself a journalism. Well, I can, because they're all over the place. He's a dime a dozen guys like Chris York, and they're willing to lie for money and spread military-industrial complex propaganda, which is what that is. Anybody have anything you want to say about this?
I think we just need to get better elected officials in there. Like this guy who's from the CIA, he's running. I think maybe this guy I saw you put the tweet up, Jimmy. I was texting. He's from the CIA and he's running for Congress. Maybe we get more people like that in there in the intelligence apparatus. Things will change around and get better for us. I don't know.
I mean, the establishment would attack Attila Hun from the right. Are you kidding me? It's just the guy. If Mike Lee, the senator from Utah, isn't right wing enough for you, they're going to give you a guy who, in his ads, brag that he's CIA.
Yeah,
that he's bragging.
He also said in that ad that they brought the people responsible for 9/11 to justice. I'm like, really?
Really?
Really? Because the last I looked, they're just chilling in Saudi Arabia, just hanging out there right now.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. I hope you enjoyed it.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you for having us on. We appreciate it.
Everybody check out the Convo Couch. And you also have a couple of other shows you're doing now, right?
Yeah, well, Fee's got her new gig, right? And I got my new gig, AM Wake Up, the morning show, every day, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific time, with me and Steve Poikonen from Slow News Day, the two of us. We have a lot of great guests on, a lot of fun time. It's more of like a laid-back show. We're looking forward to having you on one day, Jimmy. Having a fun time.
Sure. I would
get up early enough.
Yeah, well, sure. Sounds like fun. Okay. And Fee, where can people find you?
Well, obviously you can find me on the Convo Couch on Twitter, and also I'm on RT. I'm a correspondent, and I'll be anchoring also. So just check out Rumble and Odyssey, because we're obviously not on YouTube. So we'll see what happens, guys, with this conflict. And please stand up for, independent media. Thanks for helping independent media out. You guys are awesome.
Okay.
Free Assange. We love you, Steph.
Here we're going to Sacramento, back here in Los Angeles, Bakersfield, Indianapolis, Louisville, Cincinnati, Tulsa, Oklahoma City. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets for all our shows.